All right guys, video number 4. We're installing the massive decal. This is a big one. Full back window of a Chevy pickup truck. It doesn't matter what kind of truck it is, but putting it on your back glass. You want to make sure that you have a lot of stuff ready to go on this one, okay? Again, we need to make sure our window's clean, so we got our window cleaner, we got our paper toweling. I'm going to hand that up to Brandon right now. He's going to actually start cleaning the window. We want to make sure that we have our masking tape. This is going to be really important. The bigger the decal, the more important the masking tape is. A tape measure. When you get into decals like this, just like the long one that we put on the back of the SUV, you definitely want a tape measure because you want to make sure everything's going on straight. This is an expensive decal. This is something that you don't want to mess up. You don't want to have to call us up and order a second one because you boogered it up. So make sure you got all this stuff with you. Make sure you've got a squeegee or a good credit card, something that's really firm. An ID card will work, but it's really going to be small. We're working with a lot bigger stuff now, so we want to get something a little bit better. Make sure you've got a knife of some kind to cut your backing away. This particular decal we're putting on in 2 different increments, okay? This is a great big decal. It says HuntCals going across the back window. Then it's got the custom outdoor decals with the phone number on it, so it's going to be one big decal. But because of the colors and the way it is, we would have sent this to you in 2 different decals. So you can put this part on first. Once that's on, you can remeasure and work with this decal afterwards. It's not going to matter whether you get this all in one decal or it comes in 2 strips like this, really, as far as how you're going to install it. But we're going to do it twice for you so you can get a really good feel for it. All right, Brandon's got the window clean, so we need to do some measuring. Brandon, I'll measure from the sides of the wording. You're at 49 inches, okay? So you want to be at 24.5 inches to the center. So let's figure out where the center is, and let's maybe make a little bit of a mark. You got a pen or a pencil on you or anything?
Let me grab one.
So at 24.5 right here, Brandon. Now this one here, because it's so big, you may want to make a little bit of a dot. It's going to be right up here is where you need to put the mark, so that you kind of remember where your center is. Yep.
This is actually 48.
All right. So that's about where it's going to be. So, all right. We got the center of this decal marked. What are you going to use for top and bottom, Brandon? Like the bottom of these letters seem to be fairly all in the same place, so that'll be our measuring point.
It is a little bit harder with a decal like this. Hold that end up, because this font is a little bit wild. When you look at it on the computer screen, the way that it comes out, if you look at it on the computer screen when it was set on there straight, the H sits a little bit lower than this L, and the way you can tell with that, this has all the pre-punched holes in it from the roll, so you can tell this is actually set up straight. It looks goofy, but that's the way that this word is designed. So you just follow this as a straight edge.
Yeah, because you've got the perforated top, we know this is straight. This hasn't been cut by a razor or cut by us by hand. So rather than having to worry about measuring to the bottom of these letters, yep, we've got kind of lucky because this is the top of a straight roll right from the factory. So that's what Brandon's going to use to measure to.
Yep.
Okay, let's go ahead and get it installed, Brandon.
Okay, as I know the contour of this glass here, I lined up these dots with the center of the light already. And right where this weather stripping here on the top of the truck meets the corner of the paper, that's where I have the paper meeting the corner of the window on each side. Okay, so I already know that that's going to be pretty darn near level.
But once
we're going to measure it anyways.
I was just going to say, once we get a tape, let's measure it for him anyway, just to make sure. There we go.
Okay,
so probably from the corners of the light, you know that's straight.
Yep. So from the corners of the light, yeah, to the bottom of the perforated holes is
1 inch.
1 inch. Yep. 1 inch. So we know that's level.
Yep. And we know the center is where he wants it to be. So right now this decal is hanging here taped right where Brandon wants it to be on his truck. Okay, so now remember, This is kind of big. It's kind of hard to pull this off. We want to make sure this thing stays straight. So Brandon's going to hinge it. Remember, hinging it, runs a piece of masking tape below and above to make sure that this decal doesn't move at all while we're installing it. Same kind of masking tape that somebody would use in a paint shop. Now he's going to put a second strip down there just to make sure that nothing moves. Kind of half overlaps it. Okay, there you go. What side do you want to start with, Brandon?
Let's go ahead and start with this side here.
Okay.
I pulled that off.
You got your knife handy?
Let me jump down and grab that quick.
Right there.
All right. Got the knife here. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did on the Southern Woody decal that we did on the Suburban.
All I'm doing is holding the masking in one spot nice and straight so he can pull nice and firm.
Just go nice and slow with it, and you can see if anything's going to come up with it. Not a lot of crazy detail in this decal, so
Comes off pretty easy.
comes off pretty easy, yep. Even though it's bigger. Don't let the size of the decal scare you. Sometimes them are easier ones to put on, to be honest with you. Remember, a razor blade on glass is not going to cut the glass. It's not made of diamond.
Okay. So we switch places now. I'll go to the other side and pull it tight. Remember, as you're doing this, you don't want to get this all slack and get it sticking to itself. You want to keep it nice and tight. Okay, you see, you can see where the hinge is holding the decal where it's supposed to be.
Yep. And this time we're not going to use the ID. We're going to use the squeegee. We're going to do this one the right way. Just to show you, if you spend a couple of dollars and get a good squeegee, if you're going to be installing a lot of decals, this is what you really want to be using. It's a little more firm than the ID that we were using before. So same thing we were doing with the ID and the other decals. You start in the middle, work your way up and down, press it to your surface, good and even, pushing all the air bubbles out.
There you go.
There you go. That half is done.
Here we are. Stay right here.
Yep. So now we're going to pull off the masking on this corner over here.
You know what, Brandon? Just for the heck of it, why don't you cut that and show them how well it's going to line up when we get back to the other side over there. We just make a little cut right here.
Okay.
That way they'll see that the masking actually lines up where it's supposed to.
Okay.
Why we're doing that is you'll see how nicely this hinge system works. And by Brandon, it's all right, you got some there. What's going to happen is it's going to line right up with that masking tape on that side when we come back the other direction. All right. We can take this masking off.
Yep.
You could do the same thing here. If you don't want to peel it off, you can just cut above and below. All right. Get up out of the way.
Like I said, usually you want to go a little bit slower with these, but I know there's no detail in this one. It's a bigger one. I can go a little bit faster. Plus, you do this a few times and you get a little bit used to it, so.
But you'll never be sorry for taking your time with it.
That's right.
Okay. I'll go to this side. Keeping it away from the glass, keeping it straight as I bring it back across. You definitely want a buddy with you when you're doing this decal. Okay.
same thing you did on the other side. You just start in the middle with it. And you keep pushing this out. Pushes all the air out. That way you have no bubbles in your vinyl. There you go. And look at there.
Matched up just perfect.
Look at how perfectly that lined up. And that's how the hinge method is supposed to work. It's supposed to make sure that you keep everything nice and level. If it comes out crooked, I hate to say it, but then you didn't measure it out right to begin with. If it comes out crooked, that, or you didn't hold your masking and your decal perfectly straight when you were coming across with it. If you hold it straight, you got a second person with you. You don't try to cheat and do it by yourself. If you hold it straight, you measure straight, it's going to come out straight like this every time. So make sure you measure a couple of times just to make sure, and you have a buddy with you to help you out. And you shouldn't have any issues with it at all. All right. Yep. Just going back over this to make sure that it's all on there nice. Alright, hey, just peel that back nice and slow and easy.
Sometimes you may see a small bubble. Don't worry about that, folks. When the heat hits this thing, after a while, the sun hits it, it'll push it out. If it's a big one, try to push it out with your finger a little bit. Don't get crazy about taking knives and popping bubbles and stuff like that. Push it down a little bit. Let the sun do its job. The decal's on right, it's on straight. You're going to have a few bubbles once in a while, especially in something this big, but the sun will take that out.
Don't worry about this little dot here. Every now and then you get that's basically it's just vinyl that got stuck in that perforated edge that we were telling you about earlier. You can just go back and you can peel that right off.
Okay. So again, we're dealing with a long decal, so Brandon's going to hinge it now in the middle. We'll do this exactly the same way we did with the long decal and with the big one on top. And it really wouldn't matter if this was all one decal for the window. We would have hinged the whole thing down the middle. But this actually involved a little bit more detail because we had to put two long decals on, center them on each other. So you got to see a little bit more. If you guys need help, you can always give a call. And Brandon will refer you to the correct video to watch or give you some pointers if you're having some problems. But these videos should help everybody out.
Alright, so same way we've done it before. Nice and slow. Remember just to keep this right flat up against the window, this backing. When you're pulling it off of the masking, just keep it right flat there.
Everything's coming real nice.
Okay, and now what I'm going to do, see here, this followed the backing instead of the masking. So you take this back, you massage it back to it here. There you go. It actually went fairly easy. So now what I'm going to do, instead of cutting this, remember before we had showed you about
if you were on paint.
If you were on paint. So we're going to pretend we're on paint. This backing tear is pretty easy.
Give yourself some room though.
There you go. All I did was tear it. It's not a big deal. So now we're going to go ahead and pull this back across. Alright.
How are we looking, Brandon?
Looks straight.
Okay.
As long as you hold it tight like that, it's gonna be straight. You just got to trust that method. It's gonna be straight if you hold it tight. If you feel like you have to stretch it one way or the other, then you might want to make sure you double measure before you start to put this vinyl down. Because if you feel like you have to stretch it one way or the other, then it's probably not straight. You shouldn't have to stretch it one way or the other. You should be able to pull it evenly taut and then go ahead and apply this down.
There you go.
Okay, so we've got one side on.
Just for the heck of it, go ahead and cut that masking here. If you don't want to pull on it, you can just take a razor, and it doesn't have to be tight to it, whatever, just cut the masking that you use to make your hinge, and so that way you don't have to pull on your decal if you don't want to. So we got to go from this side, so otherwise I can't hold it. There we go.
Remember, just keep it nice and tight. Pull it straight back.
Take your time.
Yep. With these smaller letters like this, you definitely want to take your time.
We have a problem. The letters are backwards.
You scared me there for a minute. I thought I missed something.
There you go.
All right, so there you go. Got the back in there. Now, if you're afraid that you're not holding it tight, if you cut the masking like I did, you kind of have something to eyeball on if you really feel like you have to do it that way. Once again,
See how that tape went right back together there? I mean, you know that this is going on exactly where we had it taped and measured to. There we go. It's that easy. Look at that. Tape all matched up perfect. Everything's on.
all right. Pull it off nice and slow. All right, and if you're ever having any more issues that the videos can't help you with, here's a number you want to call, folks.
That's right. Remember, clean your glass or your surface. Make sure you start with a clean surface. Make sure you do your measuring. Have some masking tape around. Separating that backing and the masking is part of the key. Making sure that you seat that decal down to the masking on the first time when you're separating it, and then seating it to the surface so you can pull the masking off of it. It's a two-part process. You know, when people call us up and they say that a decal didn't stick, there was something done wrong in your installation process, because this is all cut off the same roll. Sometimes you might get a decal that was done in orange and it came from the bottom part of this roll. Well, there's no reason that that part of the roll isn't sticking and this part is, guys. So it will stick. You just got to make sure that you install it right, separate it from the backing right, and you get a nice clean application. If you do have a problem, you give Brandon a call, let him know. A lot of times he'll work with you to help you out, okay? Good luck. Make sure you post your decals on HuntCals Facebook page, because that's how you can get entered to win some free decals for the future. Thanks for watching.